my most favorite people. She is the CEO of Wanderful, a really amazing travel community of women. She has so many accolades out there that I could talk about for the next hour, but instead I will just let her jump straight into today's presentation. So Beth, I am going to let you take it away.
Christine, best intro ever. And you can see we are in like get it done mode, because if you don't know me, and I see a lot of you that I know, hi Erica, hi Nayla. I've done this presentation before years ago. It took me 3 hours. Erica's freaking out. No, don't worry, Erica. Everything is fine, because so much has changed in the last 2 years. And so actually, when I decided to do this for the Nomadic Network, I was like, I need to completely revamp this whole thing and build something new. Because first of all, as you can all see in the chat, a lot of you have traveled solo before. And so I don't want to give you, how to travel 101. We're travel lovers. We know how to do that. What we want to know is how this is different for women, and especially women when we're traveling alone. And the second thing is that we're in this space of starting to travel again after a lot of us not having traveled. I haven't been on a plane in 2 years, guys. Like, it's been a long time. And so I want to make sure that you're getting information that's relevant to you now. And so when Christine and I were talking, we're like, we're going to get you into this. I have a great toolkit I want to pass on to you after this as well. I want you to have as much information as you can get out there. And if you haven't been to one of these sessions with me before, because I do a lot of speaking, I love to hear from you all during the presentation. I don't want this to be a buttoned up, hey, here's Beth giving you a presentation, and then after that, we're going to do the Q&A. Be part of this conversation with us. Share your thoughts in the chat. Share your questions in the chat. I will respond to you. I'll help answer them along the way, and use this to get to know each other, right? I think that's one of the best things about this, especially when we're all in video, as we think like, oh, we're just sort of passively watching a speaker, but you can meet each other. You can build connections. You can, find travel buddies like right there in the chat. So feel free to use that. And what we're going to do is dive in, and I have a great set of slides that I'm going to share with you. I'll also give you the caveat that I'm using a second screen for not the first time, but it might seem like it's my first time using a second screen, because I'm always like, what's happening? How does this work? But everyone see the screen okay? See some nod? Perfect. All right. So let me introduce myself and give you a little bit more information about me. As Christine mentioned, my name's Beth Santos, and I'm founder and CEO of Wanderful. We're a community of women who love to travel and travel creatives, and we're on a mission to help make travel better for women everywhere. I am a seasoned solo traveler myself. I'll tell you a little bit about our journey with Wanderful. I'm also an entrepreneur, and my whole mission is helping women like all of us get out there and do that confidently, and do that with a supportive network to guide them. And I know Christine will be dropping some of my own links in here, but I did want to give this to you up front, because every time I speak at something, it's always like 2/3 of the way through you go, oh wait, how do I even follow this person or ask them a question later? Or so it's right there. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Maximum Beth. You can find Wanderful at the handles She's Wanderful. You'll find it always at the bottom of my screen. If you ever forget, feel free to share on social media now, take screenshots, take pictures. And I mentioned that there's a toolkit that goes with this too, that I highly recommend you download, because you're going to get the recording of this, which is actually a lie. I recorded it yesterday. You get the pre-recording of this, you get the slides for this, and then there's also a whole bunch of packing guides and other resources that we have. So that's at the bottom of the screen as well, so that you have everything that you need. So you'll find it there. So let me tell you a little bit about Wanderful and how we got started. I started Wanderful when I was traveling alone in a country called Sao Tome and Principe, which, first of all, I always have to ask in the chat if anyone's been there before, because I have only met a couple of brave souls in the world who have also been to Sao Tome. So if you've been there, post it in the chat. I'm like dying to know. Sao Tome is a country of about 200,000 people now. There were 160,000 people when I was there. It's a 2-island nation off the west coast of Africa, and very removed from the tourism industry. And so when I was there, you better know somebody, because somebody needs to pick you up at the airport. And I think it was during that time that I found a real need to share my story as a woman who is traveling by herself, but also a woman who's traveling very hyper locally in a place that wasn't her own. And from there, I started to write about my experiences. I started a blog, and over time created a whole network. And now this is what Wanderful is today. We're a collective of thousands of travelers, of travel creatives who are on a mission to make travel better for all women. And I use this term all very purposefully. And it's something that we've added recently, because when we talk about travel, and I'm going to bring this up later in the presentation as well. Oh, Nayla's like, I want to go to Sao Tome. Okay, Nayla, we're going to go together. I'm going to pack you in my bag and we're going to go. When we talk about travel, and we talk about even women in travel, oftentimes we're talking about a very selective group of women in travel. It's often white, able-bodied, straight, young women. And that is not what most of us are. We all have different intersections. We all have different identities. And the really important thing that I wanted to do was create a space where all women in travel can feel supported in all of our many identities. And so we do a lot of supporting the diversity of where we all come from, and really leaning into that and talking about that. We do that in a couple of ways. We have a membership community with chapters all around the world for women travelers and travel creatives to connect with each other. We have an awesome event called the WITS Travel Creator and Brand Summit. We also have a festival that I didn't put in the slides that you all have to know about. It's called Wanderfest. It's happening this March. It is a festival in downtown New Orleans that is celebrating and connecting women in travel. And it's just going to be like the most fun thing you've ever imagined. So we're bringing women together online. We're bringing them together in person. We're leaning into hard conversations. We're talking about how to help each other. And we're talking about how to make the travel industry better for women all around the world too. So we do a lot of advocacy and education, because my perspective is there's only so much we can do to say, hey, women, bring your pepper spray on your trip or whatever, right? We also need to be getting the travel industry to listen and to speak to women of all kinds, because guess what? We are actually a huge part of the industry. So this is a picture of me. This is in Chicago in, I want to say maybe 2014 or 2015. I'm on a radio show, and it's all about, living this global life. And that's what the radio show is about. And the host of the show sits down, and the first thing he says to me is, oh, so women in travel. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, that's a great niche. And what I said to him was, yeah, it is. What I should have said to him was, actually, my dear, women in travel is not a niche at all. In fact, it is the entire travel industry. 80 to 85% of travel decisions are made by women. So first of all, we're basically the whole industry, right? Like the niche is men in travel, actually, to speak to the binary here. The niche is men in travel. 2/3 of travelers are female. And did you know, this is pre-pandemic, search results on Google for solo female travel grew 230% in 1 year in 2019. And we already have data that suggests that solo travel in general has just exploded in these times when we're not able to travel as easily in groups. We're limiting our travel. We're thinking about where we want to go next. So the interest in solo travel, I think, has increased significantly, because now that we're actually thinking about going somewhere again, if we haven't been traveling, we're thinking, well, I don't want to wait for anybody, right? Like, I've got my bucket list trip and I'm going on it. And I don't care who goes with me or who doesn't go with me, I'm going, or at least that's how I am. Even if, and I think there's a big myth that solo travel is only for single people, and it's not. I have a husband and 2 kids, and I love to travel by myself. Thank you very much. So, this is something that is growing, that is only growing more, and women are a huge part of it. Now, the problem is that we're still considered a niche. And because of that, there are not a lot of resources available to us. We don't talk about travel. And we have this really great narrative that I want to tell you about right now. So this is my favorite, which is the true story. When we talk about women in travel, there's usually 2 stories that we're told. The first, and solo female travel, by the way, Erica, taken. The first story is that you're going to go on this magical eat, pray, love adventure, right? You're going to gorge on pasta. You're going to meet some gorgeous Brazilian who's going to sweep you off your feet. You're going to, find yourself in Bali. You're going to have this amazing trip, and it's going to be perfect. The other story is that you're going to be kidnapped and Liam Neeson is going to have to find you. And that's the taken narrative. So there's really nothing else that we tell women. It's either you're going to have an amazing experience or you're going to be murdered abroad and no one will be able to find you. And there's so much in between that, right? We need to talk about cultural norms and expectations, which change from every place we go to. We need to talk about how to dress appropriately to be respectful to a local community. We need to talk about many women's biological realities and what they need to think about. We should talk about maternity and pregnancy. We should talk about the guilt that we put on a lot of women who choose to travel by themselves if they're not single. You know, all of that is really, really important, but these are the central narratives that we're told. The reality, our experiences are different wherever we go. That's why we need help, not just navigating, you know, one set of pieces of data, but also real live information that people can help us with, because restaurants close and open, rules change, systems change, time changes, and that's really important. My goal is to not answer every single possible question out there and to give you every single possible solution. My goal is what every great teacher does, which is to help you figure out how to get the answers that you need so that you can have the best experience that you can have. So I'm going to give you the tools to get out there. I'm going to give you things to think about, and I'm going to give you resources to take on your way. And I'm seeing great question, Rebecca. Oh, do you think it's more economical to travel by yourself or to join a tour group? Okay, well, we're going to talk about this actually. Actually, thank you, Rebecca, because let's talk about this right now. It is my first thing. Okay, give me like 2 seconds and we'll get into it. Here's what you're going to get today: myth busting, real tips, tools and courses. I have an exclusive membership offer that I have to offer you because I want you all to be part of Wanderful. And of course, just the surface of it all. I thought about giving you like this really cute little picture of an iceberg, but we've like way too much used the iceberg story. So let's skip that. Let's begin, Liam. I want to talk about myths. What are the top myths that we hear about solo female travel? That it's dangerous, that something's going to happen to you, that you're not going to be able to protect yourself, that it's lonely, that you're not going to meet anybody, that you're going to be completely by yourself with no one to talk to. And by the way, to speak on that one, I bet a lot of you in the comments can say this. Sometimes when we travel alone, it's actually the least lonely experience of all, because you become open to meeting new people, right? Sometimes when you travel with a group or with a partner, you're kind of able to be with them a little bit and to hide behind them. But when you're by yourself, you're sort of forced, I hate to use that word forced, but like you're forced into this space of meeting people and getting to know people. Sometimes your best friendships come from just going out there and letting yourself take in the world. One of my other favorite myths: solo travel needs to be done on a mountaintop alone for months. You have to be in like Nepal, in like on like a campsite, not talking to anybody, with only a journal, you know, like Henry David Thoreau. I'm based in Boston, so Henry David Thoreau is very famous around here for his story of going to Walden Pond and writing on end by himself. And by the way, I think like his wife was bringing him food, so he actually wasn't alone. But anyway, that's a side comment. We have this vision of solo travel being this experience where you have to be completely solitary and on your own and roughing it. We also have this sort of myth that's perpetuated that if you Google solo travel, or especially solo female travel, there is one kind of person that we usually see in the search results. Usually you see the back of her. She's probably doing something like this, or like this, or like, you know, with her hand like that. Yeah. Or like peace sign. Yeah. Everybody do a pose of like what you see on Google when you search solo female traveler. They're often young, they're often white, they're often Western, English speaking, able-bodied women. And we've already kind of broken that down, that that's not the case. In fact, that is only one small part of it. Laura says she loves connecting with folks, but honestly also loves alone time, which is absolutely a great quality in solo travel is that you get to pick. And that's actually one of my favorite parts. So instead of giving you from beginning to end what to know about when you're traveling by yourself, I want to give you 8 of my best tips that are going to guide you along the way. And then I'm going to follow up with those resources that I promised you so that you can have more things to learn about, further reading, creators that you should be following, etc. But these are 8 tips in however form you're going to take them, because it's going to help you. And you thought about this, Laura, which is number 1, which is, first of all, I want to challenge you all to redefine, and Rebecca, I think this is for you too, redefine what solo travel means to you. Okay. We have a very significant expectation of solo travel being that like mountaintop adventure where you're meeting nobody. In fact, the only thing, so first of all, this is my pointy perspective about the world. Travel only consists of 3 things: challenging your preconceptions, trying something new, being comfortable with discomfort. If you can put yourself in a position of discomfort, if you can try something new, and you can challenge the things that you know, that is travel. You can do it 5 minutes away from your house. You can do it 1,000 miles from your house. You can do it 5,000 miles from your house. Okay. Now, I want you to think about that in the perspective of solo travel as well. Solo travel means, for me, that you are planning and doing this trip by yourself. It means you're not with your family all traveling together. It does not mean you have to be by yourself the whole time, because if you want to get really kind of heady about this, we're never alone anyway, right? Whether we know people or not, we're never actually alone. So if you decide you want to travel, maybe you decide you want to go on a small group trip. And there are these amazing opportunities now that some people call solo travel in a group, where you're traveling alone in the sense where you don't know anybody, but you're doing it in a group environment, right? You're doing it with other people who then become friends of yours. So I wanted to pull out like a wonderful trip we did with this really awesome small business called Purposeful Nomad. That can be an incredible solo travel experience, because you're deciding to go there, you're planning your logistics, you're showing up, you don't know anybody. It is an experience for you. You're doing what you want to do. You're just not organizing the things in the middle. And I think that's very much a solo travel experience. I want to give you a couple other ones. Vacation with an artist. Has anyone heard of Vacation with an Artist? Just give like a little nod or thumbs up. So Vacation with an Artist, one of my favorite startups. It's a woman-owned startup based out of New York right now, actually. And they will pair you with, you basically sign up to be an apprentice for an artist somewhere in the world for like a couple days or maybe for a week. So this is a really awesome experience for somebody who, maybe you want to plan a solo trip, but you don't want to do all of the things and you just want to connect with somebody. You can meet with an artist, you can stay with them, you can stay in a hotel nearby, you get to apprentice with them during the day, you learn their craft, and then you go home and have dinner, whatever you want to do, with your travel experience. So you're kind of partially planning it. And then if you're looking for like the most, completely solo, I want to plan everything by myself, there's also a really great company called Eat With. Has anyone heard of Eat With? Also, Traveling Spoon is similar too. Eat With is Airbnb for dinner. So if you imagine like the one thing, a lot of people are very worried about eating alone when they're traveling. They're like, I just don't want to go to a restaurant and have to eat by myself. This is, you can plan your whole entire, whatever you want to do travel experience, but then you can actually sign up to have dinner at somebody's house. Like you can go and have dinner with them or with a group of other people and meet people just over a meal. And sometimes it's really fancy meals like a food tour through Lisbon, 5-plate meal. Sometimes it's like, this is my grandma's favorite bulgogi recipe, but it only serves 12 and so I need 11 other people to eat this with me, and like it's amazing. So I bring those to you because these are all different ways that, in my opinion, are solo travel experiences. They don't have to be, it doesn't have to be one type of experience for you. You have to redefine what it is. Now, I think it was Rebecca who had asked what I think is more economical. And it depends on the different things that what you're defining as economic. And what I mean by this is, oftentimes we think as a solo traveler, we can find deals, and we can. I think, sometimes I I can prioritize where I want to spend my money. Maybe I want to eat more cheaply, but then I want to, spend a little bit more on an experience, for example. When you're traveling alone, you get to make those decisions. When you're traveling in a group, you can't do it as much. But also when you're traveling a group, sometimes you get things negotiated for you that you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And you save a lot of money on the time. If you're looking at time as money, you save a lot of money on the time it takes for you to plan. So it's kind of two different ways of looking at it and prioritizing what's right for you. Another comment about Meetup. Meetup is a great option for finding people that are local, that might want to connect over dinner or a meal. I have a couple great recommendations later on in this. But anyway, everyone gets the idea that you can design this. There are some really great tools on how to do that. And it doesn't just have to fit into one category. So I have a list of really awesome women-owned travel companies as well. Either take a screenshot now or just get the toolkit, because there's an even bigger list in the toolkit. But these are small women-owned businesses. A lot of them focus on women-focused travel experiences. They'll go and they'll meet with local women, or they'll host an event, or like Intrepid Women's Expeditions is really fantastic. It's these like adventurous trips that they do, and they're all hosted by women guides in places where women are often not tour guides, and just really fantastic. So definitely check all of those out. And then let me get into some more tips, because I know we're already halfway through and I have eight of these. Don't worry, we're going to end on time, I promise. Tip number 2. This is like the heart of our solo female travel conversation, because safety is the thing we talk about, right? We've brought up Liam Neeson a few times now. Your safety level depends on a lot of things, okay? It depends on your own risk perception. It depends on who you are and your identity. It depends on your abilities. It depends on where you're coming from. It depends on the language that you speak. And I want you to think about these things when you're thinking about solo female travel from a safety perspective. What are the local laws and regulations of this place? Am I unsafe because of my sexuality? Am I unsafe because of my religion? These things can modulate depending on where you go. Where is my data coming from? Okay, if you read a list that just says, oh, this place is unsafe, make sure that you're actually looking at what are the criteria? How was that selected? What resources, is this a scholarly piece? Is this somebody's just perception? Is this, is this like a TripAdvisor thing where people are just kind of throwing their opinions wherever? What is my own risk profile? Can I tolerate a higher level of risk? Can I not? Am I going to feel really uncomfortable going to a place because I have a lower risk profile than other people? Where am I coming from, and how does my destination compare to the everyday experience of my home city? I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, like, oh, I'm traveling to, I'll continue to use Portugal as an example, because my family is Portuguese and Portugal is an extremely safe place. I'm traveling, well, as I say, of course, I'm going to debunk my own myth. I'm traveling to Portugal. I'm afraid. And I'm like, you live in Boston right now. You know that the city of Boston has a higher crime rate than Lisbon, for example. I'm just kind of making this up. I don't actually know what the current crime rate is. But the point is, sometimes we don't even think about where we're coming from in terms of where we're going. We just think, oh, it's another place that I don't know. It's going to be more dangerous. And make sure that you know your stats here. And I think there is an argument to be made for, your home, how to act in your home. But at the same time, you also might be more likely to be taken off guard at home because you think you're more comfortable, and you're not, your guard isn't up, versus when you're traveling, it is. So, and Irina says, I'm going to Portugal in 2021. That's awesome. Oh my gosh, for a solo trip, it's such a good place to go solo. Send me a message. I'll give you all the tips. Definitely go north, don't go south, do all the good things. South is good too. What resources do I have? Who do I know? Do I know somebody on the ground that can help me? Do I have a local community that can guide me? Have I read about this place? Like, what kinds of resources do I have? So keep in mind all of these things, because this is going to build your own safety risk profile. Now, I want you to know something really important too, which is, if you find, and I know we've all done it, there are thousands of them out there, these lists that are like top safe countries for women to travel solo, right? I'm sure you've all read one. And Stacy makes an excellent point. You need to be aware of local politics and current political environment. Absolutely. Um, uh, Safe countries for women to travel solo. I encourage you very much to disregard these lists as frequently as possible for a number of reasons. First of all, because you cannot rank an entire country. It's just not possible to rank one whole country because even parts of our own cities are different from one another. Another reason is because safety is not just physical. Sometimes your emotional and mental health is incredibly important. Sometimes your identity is at higher risk. It's not just about if you're going to get, assaulted on the street. It's also about if you're going to be discriminated against in a place, if you're going to be supported in a place. Often these lists are based on personal perspectives and biases. I've single-handedly seen or first-handedly seen these lists be created sometimes where people will say, let's do a survey poll of our community, rank how safe you feel walking down X street. And it's like, just knowing that those questions are being asked, it's taking into account what somebody personally thinks about a place, which is all of the biases that they've come from, the perspectives that they have, the stereotypes that they've built based on what they know, which are not necessarily accurate one way or another. So you don't want to build your entire perception of a place based on what a bunch of people have voted on. And by the way, a lot of times those lists that are really highly subjective also come from this if you've read Dr. Anu Taranath's book, she's absolutely brilliant. She uses this phrase, the mythical norm, which is white, Western, able-bodied, English speaking. And a lot of these things come from the space of the mythical norm. I've seen these lists that say, I'm going to rank a place safer or not based on how much English is spoken. Well, what if you don't speak English? Then it's not going to be that much safer for you, so we have to not think of from that perspective of you have to know what your own individual risk profile is. And also keep in mind that sometimes home is more dangerous than going out into the world. There's this awesome quote that happened at our creator conference called WITS. One of our sponsors got up on stage and he very facetiously, but it was still really funny. He was like, I think it was like 75% of accidents occur within 15 miles from your home. He was talking about car accidents, but he's like 75% of accidents occur within 15 miles from your home. Stay safe and get out there and travel. And I thought that was awesome. Anyway, so there you go. Take it with you. Home could be more dangerous than where you're going. Keep that in mind. Tip number 3, I know I'm spending a lot of time trying to debunk the safety stuff, but in reality, in our Wanderful community, 40% of the time, somebody has abandoned a trip because they were worried about their own safety or because somebody was worried about their safety. It is completely realistic that family, friends, people that you care about will be worried about your safety. And it is a completely legitimate thing to respond to that and to help guide them and to set them at ease. So I want to give you a couple tips on how you can do that. Getting an international data plan or purchasing a local SIM card so that you have access for somebody to contact you when you're abroad. Registering with your local embassy so that you have a way to be contacted if something goes awry. Knowing the facts and realities about where you're going, to the point that was in the chat about knowing the political situation, knowing what's happening on the ground, talking to people who are on the ground, keeping that in mind when you're going into a place. Creating an itinerary, which sounds really basic, but honestly, it's something that even I didn't do until recently. Is that available on iPhones or only Androids? The registering with your local embassy thing. I'm trying to think of what you were trying to say. Maybe, Google Fi. Oh no, it's just in the chat. I'll let you guys talk about that. Creating an itinerary with key flights, hotel info, dates, etc., for your family to have on hand. I know in my early 20s, I was like, I want to be off the grid and do my own thing, and I don't want people to know where I am. But think about it as, not making it easier for you, just taking stress off the shoulders of people that love you if they do need to find you, right? Like nobody ever wants the people they love to have to worry about them. And so if you can just limit that possibility from happening, great. Annie says she always makes an itinerary and gives it to her mom before she leaves. She checks in with her when she's back at her place for the night, so she doesn't worry. We have a list of apps actually that are great for this. There's one called Be Safe, which you have like 3 emergency contacts, and then you set amount of time that it'll take for you to get home. And if you don't get home by that time and turn it off, it like automatically sends something out to your emergency contacts, which it could be good or could be bad, depending on, you know, how reliable your expectation of when you'll be home is. But there are really good tools like that that you could use. And then the other thing that was actually a piece of advice given to me from a social worker is to take a little bit of time before your trip and just think for a moment about who you would call ahead, who you would call in case of emergency. Because oftentimes what happens is if we are in a place of any kind of emergency happening, our brains will shut off, right? And we're not really thinking about what we need to do next. And if you've already thought about that, if you've already identified who your contact is going to be, if you've already purchased your international phone plan, so it's easy to just pick up the phone, if you've already sort of taken those things into an account in a moment when there was no emergency, it makes it a lot easier for you to navigate those things if there ever is. So if you give yourself 5 minutes to just think through, okay, who would I call? Do I have their number? Should I write it down somewhere in case in a panic I'd forget? Is it in my phone? Do I have a phone plan? And just go through that process with yourself. It's going to make it 1,000 times easier if you do ever need that help and support. Okay, Sarah, how do you balance long-term and slow travel without a strict itinerary, but still keeping safety in mind? That's a great question. And, you know, it depends on how you plan your trip, because some people, when they have this long-term slow travel, what they like to do is they'll book the hotels along the way so they know at least where they're staying. And in that way, you know, you can only give as much information as you have, right? If you have the information of where you're staying, pass it along. If you don't have it yet, you can always give people a general sense of, this is where I think I'm going. I'll let you know when I have more information. I'll let you know when I check into XYZ location. You can also say, and my husband who's in the military does this a lot, he'll be like, I am not going to be accessible for X number of days because I'm going to be off the grid. So that can be helpful too. If you're going to a place where you're going, I don't actually know if there's going to be Wi-Fi, you can say to your loved ones, just so you know, you will not hear from me for a certain number of days. And that can set them at ease as well, so that they know, at least during that time, that it's going to be inaccessible. Knowing the local police number. Oh my gosh. And by the way, everyone, if you have tips, drop them in the chat. You're already doing that already, but let's use this time to help each other. Knowing the local police number, knowing the local emergency number, it's not 911 all the time, Americans. Remember that. Because sometimes you forget and you're like, oh no, what's the number to 911? So have the local police number, have a copy of your itinerary. I actually think this is where good old fashioned printing stuff can be really great sometimes. If your phone is dropped in a fountain, or if the Wi-Fi is broken or whatever, and you have to pull something up and you can't, just print your itinerary and get a printed map. I'm like, maybe I'm an old-fashioned person and I still use printed maps, but I think printed maps can't lose battery or, you know, anything like that. It's nice to have a digital backup too, but something that's printed can be, you know, something that you can pull on when you need. Okay, tip number 4, where you stay is just as important as where you go. And I mean this both from the safety perspective as well as from the having an amazing experience perspective, right? So there's 4 kind of places that I put on here. You've got your hotel, you've got your hostel, which by the way, hostels are not for young college students anymore. They're for families now. You can get a really nice private room with an ensuite bathroom. You can really enjoy it. And it's the nice perk about those is that they often plan experiences and excursions. So if you are going by yourself, you can still stay privately, but then you can jump on to a walking tour or go meet a group of people. I see there's like people who stay at hostels are just like such fans of it too. Everyone's like, hostels, yeah, for the win. Small hotels, if you do want to stay at a hotel, maybe pick something that's a small business, that's an inn or a bed and breakfast. That way you get to know the owner a little bit better. You have that person on the ground who you can connect with. Then you've got vacation rentals, things like Airbnb. Our Wanderful community actually has its own global homestay network for members to stay with each other. So You're going from like a little less personal to a little bit more personal. But let me just give you some quick tips for each of these. So hotel or hostel, aim for the third floor. That's kind of a tried and true method. If there is a third floor to this building, they say it's harder to get up, but it's easier to get down. If you need to flee the building, you can get out easily. If you are worried about somebody on the outside, it's harder for them to get to the third floor. Aim for the third floor. If anyone says your room number out loud, you have the right to request another room. People shouldn't be saying your room number out loud anymore. Bring a lock if you're staying at a hostel, just a good old combination lock. Oftentimes there's lockers that you can use. Get to know your concierge or your hostel staff. And this goes with my recommendation of picking a small business, which is even just having somebody who knows, sorry, my background is the sunlight is starting to come into my office and it's like, da, 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 da. Even getting to know the people that work at your hotel or your hostel, and just for them knowing your face. If you're going out for a little walk, just saying, hey, by the way, I'm going to go for a walk. I'll be back in 10 minutes, you know, just so that somebody knows that you went somewhere. Smaller facilities are great ways to meet people. I mentioned that hostels often have additional programming. Let's look at the other side of it. If you're staying at a vacation rental, make sure that you're actually looking at the reviews. You're looking for verified listings. You're looking for places that have good reviews from a lot of people. There are still vacation rentals out there where they're used as kind of de facto hotels. And what I mean by that is it'll be a property company that will rent out all the rooms in a house, and it'll be a bunch of people staying with each other that are all strangers. And you probably want to avoid that. You probably want to stay where there's, you know, somebody who lives in the place that's there, or have to own, you know, the entire place by yourself. The other thing I would say is membership communities can be really helpful in a homestay situation, because you know that people are all paying to be part of the community. So it's kind of another verification tactic. And by the way, have your address just written down in the local language somewhere so you can pull it out if you need it. Because if it is a vacation rental or homestay, people are, you know, your cab driver is probably not going to know where it is. So just have it written, especially if it's a different alphabet, have it written in the local language. And by the way, I wanted to give you a couple of tips, because you guys can still hear me, right? Okay, nobody's saying anything because my headphone just did a funny thing. There's two great organizations that are new that have come out in the last couple of years. FemB&B and Go Lightly are both homestay networks designed for women. And they're each a little bit different in their own way, but it's essentially an Airbnb type with different verification methods. But I wanted to throw those out there for you so that you had those available to you. Okay, tip number 5, take a day 0. This is my favorite. I say this like with every tip. I'm like, this is my favorite. No, this is my favorite. No, but this one is also my favorite. And let me tell you what a day 0 is. When you're traveling by yourself, you are fully responsible for everything that happens, the good and the bad. And what I mean by that is you lead the conversations, you have the discovery, you have the amazing adventure. You also need to know where the grocery store is. And you also need to know how to use the bus system. And you also carry around your own bags. FemB&B and Go Lightly is the other one, to Anna. So same with maps. So what I mean by this is, since you don't have another person who can say, oh, by the way, I noticed that you can purchase the bus tokens over here, go to this place, or, hey, did you see that there was this really awesome gelato place down the street? Since you have to be the person to do that, give yourself a moment when you land in your new destination to just kind of do some surveying, right? Take a little walk during the day, notice the landmarks around, notice what's across the street from your building, learn the bus or the train system. Did anyone catch all these sources? I know you will have a recording if you go to the bottom of the screen, sheswanderful.com/WTS101. You'll get this entire recording, you'll get the slides, and you'll get an awesome resource kit. So you can find all that there. Learn the bus or train system, learn how things work. And because then if you're hungry, you can save yourself a lot of time by not having to be like, gosh, I'm really hungry. Where do I go? You can go, oh, you know what? I noticed there was a grocery store across the street that can help me. So, you know, all of those things, you want to give yourself a little bit of time. Now, I would recommend a whole day. That's why I call it day 0. Some people might recommend morning and afternoon, something like that. The other thing that you might want to do is use your day zero to actually take a walking tour. So Sandeman's does free walking tours where you just tip the guide. Context Travel does like super personalized tours for people who nerd out about stuff. Tours by locals, take walks, Airbnb experiences. All of these are walking tours. I'm sure others of you have recommendations in the chat. And I say walking because then it gives you the slowest and most detailed and most, molecular look at where you are. And you also have a person who's walking next to you who's from that place, who knows that place really intimately. So you can ask them questions, right? You can be like, so what's the public transit situation around here? Or what is the, what's the way to say thank you again, or whatever. Like, you have that local knowledge and that local guide. So use that. And I think if you just take a moment to really learn the systems in place, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and a lot of energy later. Mia says she often sits in a local coffee shop her first day for a while to take in the area and see how locals go about their day. I love that. I love that. And you know what actually is my personal favorite thing to do is, I've already mentioned grocery stores many times, because going to the grocery store is actually like my most favorite thing to do when I travel, is just to go in and see, like, what do they sell here? What's cheap here? What's expensive here? What do people eat for lunch? What do people eat for breakfast? Like, what is the, what's something that I haven't had before that I really want to try? I think you get a lot of data just looking into regular everyday life, and it's going to help you get through those things. Tip number 6, be considerate of local cultures and customs. So I want to bring this one up, and a lot of these things are related to dress right now, but the point is, so I'll tell you a story. I went to Turkey a few years ago, and we were landed in Istanbul. And so I remember looking up, okay, is there anything I need to know dress related when I'm traveling to Istanbul? No, seems like I can wear pretty much the same thing that I wear in the US in Istanbul. Then we took a bus and we went to southeastern Turkey, and I had not prepared for the fact that areas of southeastern Turkey are much more conservative in dress. So I was walking around it's like, I feel embarrassed saying it. I was wearing a dress with just a strappy dress that showed my knees, and it was so inappropriate. It was not appropriate for where I was. And I think a couple things I realized in that moment. Number one, your presence does have an effect on other people, like, you don't go travel in a vacuum. And so, I was making other people uncomfortable, but also I was making myself really uncomfortable, because I was getting a lot of stares, and I, immediately bought some stuff to cover myself. And I think taking those things into account is important when you're going into somebody else's place. And so a couple of tips on how to do it: bring a scarf, like a big one that can open up to a square. You can use it as a headscarf. You can use it to cover your shoulders. You can use it as a skirt. You can use it as a blanket for a picnic. You can use it as a blanket on the really cold airplane. You can do, anything. Yes. Another tip on scarves: go maxi. I love wearing maxi dresses, long maxi skirts and dresses. Sarong, excellent timing on that comment. Layers, so that you can take things off if you need to. You can put things on if you need to. The reason for all of this is because, as much as I want to say, wear what you want. This is what you want to do. This is our body. We are women, hear us roar. Like, you're not going to, and we can never go to places and expect to change thousands of years of somebody else's culture in our 1 week, our 2 days of being there. That is not our place. That is not our time. If you want to invest your life into that, perhaps you want to move to that country at some point and do that. But the reality is, we as travelers are here to learn, are here to, experience another place. And I encourage you to find, the best way to keep yourself comfortable while also respecting the culture that is there, barring any sort of, wildly unsafe or dangerous practices, of course. And I'm seeing some really good comments in here about people who have been chased out of places based on what they're wearing. And, you know, it's hard because on the one hand, you want to say, this is me and this is what I want to wear. But on the other hand, you're not in your home place. And, you know, we need to be respectful of that. And I think scarves are great in that way. I would always carry a scarf wherever you go because you can use it for whatever you need. And sometimes you're just taken off guard. You know, sometimes you just didn't even realize, and you want to be respectful. So, which leads us to tip number 7, which is all about packing really, really smart. So here's some of my favorite things. Capsule wardrobe. That's going to make sure that you are getting capsule wardrobe is when you basically carry less stuff, but you match it all so that you can interchange it more easily. Wash things in your hotel sink if you want to. Hang it up to dry outside. You know, don't bring a lot of stuff, just bring it all that you can change it. Packing cubes. Oh, which ones do you recommend? I want to tell you the one I recommend, but they don't have it anymore. Travel Fashion Girl is a great content creator and a great business owner to look into. She actually used to have her own line called Compass Rose. And that's what I was going to tell you is Compass Rose packing cubes are my favorite, but they don't do them anymore. But if you go to travelfashiongirl.com, she has every possible packing list you could imagine and every possible travel product that you could think about and her review of it. And I trust her with my life. I really, really do. Alex is brilliant. And so definitely look into that for all of your packing needs. I would also say function is much more important than fashion when you're traveling by yourself for a number of reasons, but mainly because there are going to be times when you're dragging your suitcase by yourself and there's nobody who can help you, and you don't want to be pulling a 2-wheeled big clunking suitcase over gravel and struggling with it. You want to make sure that you're thinking really clearly about what you want to bring. Thank you, Erica, for putting travelfashiongirl.com in the comments. This picture, I'm like pointing off to my other screen. This picture, the one that's down here, this is actually a backpack from a company called Redox, Redoxx. And if somebody wants to drop that in the chat, I greatly thank you. Redox is based out of Montana, and I talked to the founder myself. He's former military. And he noticed that when he was in the military, the stuff was just made super, super durable. And so when he got out of the military, he decided he wanted to make luggage that was also super, super durable, like big honking buckles and, you know, zippers and really strong, you know, fabric and that sort of thing. And I love them. So this is, I have this, it's called a Sky Train, and this is not sponsored in any way. This is just, it's just real. It's like a duffel bag, but then it's also a backpack and it can fit under your seat too, which is excellent. Things that can have multiple purposes that can be really durable and rugged. But if you don't have something that's durable and rugged, I'm going to give you a really awesome second option, which is, oh, I forgot. Okay, I'm going to just leave this. Prescription meds, birth control, menstrual cup. I'm going to give you a whole list of menstrual products in the toolkit. Period panties. There's a whole bunch of businesses that do it beyond just what was I saying? Thanks. Thanks is the one that a lot of people think of. There's a lot more now. Ashley said, Redox has packing cubes. Well, there you go. Now we know who Beth would vote for. But let me tell you about this other thing. For luggage, there is this thing called luggage storage. So we're on this like Airbnb train, right? We're talking about Airbnb for meals. Now I'm going to tell you about Airbnb for luggage, which is also known as Luggage Hero, and Verdo is the other one. These are small businesses that have actually signed up to hold your luggage for you on an hourly basis. So say you're like going somewhere and you really don't want to bring all your suitcases with you, you could actually pay, it's like, I think it's like $1 or $2 an hour. It's really reasonably priced. You can pay to go to a local business, drop your stuff there. They'll stick it in a closet for you. Usually they lock it up, and then you can, I think they always lock it up, but the building's locked, and they're there, and they will hold your luggage for you, and they tag it, and you can track it, and it's amazing. It's like really, really amazing. And it'll save you so much time and energy and like having to bring your luggage into a museum and figure out what to do with it. So use that. And then here's some other favorite gadgets, which are all in the toolkit as well. The travel bra, which is really good. I think they're based out of Australia, I want to say. It's a bra with pockets, so you can put your passport in your bra. You can put money in your bra. Waypoint Goods is one of my favorite women-owned travel businesses. They have these beautiful infinity scarves that have pockets. So again, you can put your stuff in your scarf. Here's some of my most fun apps. As a person who has now been pregnant twice, Where is Public Toilet app incredibly important, valuable app that you want to have on your phone. And there's an iPhone version as well, that's called something different, but it's like there's like 250,000 public toilets all over the world that you can find with this app. So if you ever need to go to the bathroom, yes, I know, Mia's like, I could have used that public toilet app so many times. And then there's a lot of good birth control apps for those of you who are on birth control and need that regular reminder. This one, like My Pill, is really time zone friendly. So if you're on a plane for a number of hours and you get off and you're like, I don't even know what time it is, let alone what time I'm supposed to be taking this pill, apps can be really helpful for you in that way. So that's a really good one. Christine, I know I'm going to be done soon. Check out the free packing tips and gadgets that we have in the toolkit. There's a whole list of them. You're going to love them. You are so welcome. And here's my number 8 tip, and this is my last one. Your best asset when you're traveling by yourself is other people who can guide you, and most importantly, other people who live there. And there's a lot of really great places that you can find them. The Nomadic Network right here, amazing travel savvy people from all around the world. Our Wanderful community, same. You can find other women travelers wherever you go. You can meet up with them for a cup of coffee. You can have them help you use the bus. You can stay with them. Nomadness and Latinas Who Travel are both other really awesome travel communities where you can find other people who can help guide you. But also we have lists of content creators that you should follow, because I think content creators are great places to get up-to-date information about where to go and what to do. Friends You Meet At, I had to put a plug out for Wanderfest because I'm so excited for that event happening in New Orleans. And we have a Facebook group called Wanderful Women Who Travel. So, and this is actually a picture of our community members in various chapters around the world. But my point is, there's only so much that you can do reading a guidebook. I love guidebooks. I think they're fantastic. But also, as I mentioned in the beginning of this, a lot of stuff changes, information changes, things open and close, policies change, rules evolve. And the best thing you can do is have somebody on the ground who can help you. And there are thousands and thousands of people who are on the ground and want to help you and want to guide you. So use that resource, and have an amazing adventure, because I think we are, going into this place of a lot of you maybe thinking about that first trip that you want to go on, post pandemic. And trying to figure out where you want to go. I just did a webinar a couple days ago about how to decide where to go on your 2022 trip. And I think a lot of us are diving into solo travel for the first time, or maybe doing it in a different way than we've done before. And I want you to know where to find the resources and the things that you need. This is what's in that toolkit. So if you go to the bottom of the screen again, sheswanderful.com/WTS101, you'll get the slides, the recording, gadget list, a reading list of really, really good books that'll help kind of expand your global mindset, a women-owned travel directory of some of our favorite women-owned travel businesses. You'll get access to our free Wanderful Women Summit, which is a whole summit we did last year with tips on camping, road tripping, budget travel, all sorts of stuff. We have a free blogging course that you'll get access to. We have a special deal on membership that you'll get access to. So check all of that out. And you can download it right there. And thank you all. I know we have just a couple more minutes for any last questions, but see, I know poor Erica is like, whoo, she didn't take 3 hours to do this whole
Can we all just give Beth a virtual round of applause? What an amazing presentation. Oh my gosh, thank you. And I'm so thankful that I've added the link below. You can see it on the screen. As I'm switching presentations, I would love, Beth, for you to answer just one question with maybe just, and this is a hard question, maybe just a couple quick tips that you might have for helping people to gain confidence. This question originally came earlier from Ashley, but what are your 1 or 2 tips to help women gain confidence in traveling solo?
So there's a couple things I'll say to this. The first is a really quick story, and that is when I was first traveling with my first daughter, Nora. She was 6 months old, and I was going to go with her to Spain. And I was telling my friends about this, and they all went, oh my gosh, you're so brave. You're going to take a baby traveling with you. What are you going to do? Are you going to pack diapers? How are you going to plan? Blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, and I kind of looked at my friends, and eventually I kind of said, I've done a lot of research on this topic, really, really a lot of research. And I found that there is not a single country in the world that doesn't have babies. It's like this magical thing. All countries have them. I don't know how that happened, but they all do. And I tell you this because I think it's a similar story with solo travel, which is oftentimes we're in this perception of like, oh my gosh, you're going to be by yourself. How are you going to figure things out? But you're actually surrounded by people, people who can help guide you, people who can support you, people who can answer questions for you. And yeah, they might have come from a different worldview and they might be in a different place and they might speak a different language, but there's always going to be someone who can help. And I think remembering that and knowing that you're not just diving in, you're never actually alone, you're not diving in alone. I think that can give you a little bit more confidence of, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And the other thing I'll say to that is sometimes you just literally have to just jump in, like when you're afraid of going into a cold pool and you're like, oh my gosh, how is this going to be? And then you dive in and it's actually okay. Sometimes it's literally just booking the trip, and like getting on the plane is the hardest part, or getting to the airport. And then, you're like leaving home and you're all nervous. Then you get to the airport and like, you're just like, game on, let's do it, and your attitude will change. So I think sometimes it's the anticipation that is the scariest part, and surrounding yourself with people who can just push you forward and get you excited and help you. That's going to give you the confidence to get to the airport. Once you get to the airport, it's going to be so much better, and you can always ask somebody for help.
Yes, a fantastic mindset to have. Two really great tips for gaining confidence. Let's give Beth another virtual round of applause. Thank you so much for a fire presentation. Check that link that I put in the chat. And don't forget, you can get replays of all of these by joining the Nomadic Plus network. And don't forget, there's lots of other upcoming events. I will be hosting the one later tonight as well. Here are some of your upcoming events. And don't forget, there's a book club coming up as well. But one last one. Beth, round of applause. Nice job today. Thank you everyone for coming. What a wonderful